Good evening, I'm Darren Mara. The top stories. Donald Trump's administration embroiled in a fresh scandal involving Russia.
We will investigate allegations of Russian collusion with the Trump campaign.
Brexit plans delayed, a challenge over rights for EU nationals.
You can't do negotiations with people's futures.
And a minister referred to the AFP for releasing personal welfare details. Another Donald Trump appointee is under pressure tonight. US Attorney General Jeff Sessions is accused of giving false testimony at his confirmation hearing. Senior Democrats are calling for his resignation after it was revealed Mr. Sessions met with the Russian ambassador during the presidential campaign, meetings he had failed to disclose.
Will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Under oath and in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee.
If there is any evidence that anyone affiliated with the Trump campaign communicated with the Russian government in the course of this campaign, what will you do?
Senator Franken, I'm not aware of any of those activities. I have been called a surrogate at a time or two in that campaign, and I did not have communications with the Russians.
Now it seems that just isn't true. Justice officials saying he spoke to the Russians twice last year. One of the meetings, a private conversation in his office in September with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak, the same man who discussed US sanctions with former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn in the month before Donald Trump took office. Flynn was forced to resign. Now calls for Mr. Sessions to do the same. House Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi saying he lied under oath and isn't fit to serve as the country's top law enforcement officer and must resign. The Attorney General denying he ever met any Russian officials to discuss issues of the campaign, insisting the allegation is false. Justice officials saying he was asked about communications between Russia and the Trump campaign, not about meetings he took as a senator.
If there were contacts between the Trump campaign and Russian officials, they may be legitimate, they may be okay. If there is something there and it goes up the chain of investigation, it is clear to me that Jeff Sessions, who is my dear friend, cannot make this decision about Trump.
Calls for a special prosecutor are intensifying. Senator Franken saying it's clear that the Attorney General cannot oversee the Justice Department and FBI investigations, that he must recuse himself immediately. The House Intelligence Committee today confirming they'll be investigating President Trump's links to Russia too.
We have reached a written agreement, the minority and the majority in the House Intelligence Committee, that we will investigate allegations of Russian collusion with the Trump campaign.
It's not great timing for Mr. Trump as he basks in the afterglow of his big speech to Congress, even postponing the signing of a new executive order on his travel ban from several Muslim-majority countries. Now it's expected to exclude Iraq after a push from his Secretary of State, Defense Secretary and new National Security Advisor. On Capitol Hill today for lunch, meeting Republican leaders, trying to build on his positive momentum.
It begins as of now, and we think we're going to have tremendous success.
But the party's rank and file still divided over the president's policy promises, and a critical question still unanswered.
Did he answer questions how he would pay for things tonight?
Democrats, for their part, skeptical.
You can't just talk the talk, Mr. President. You have to walk the walk.
That walk likely in coming days to be detoured by talk of tracks that lead to the Kremlin. Nastasia Tay, SBS World News.
The British government has suffered its first parliamentary defeat on the Brexit bill. The House of Lords voted for an amendment saying the millions of EU nationals already living in the UK should have the right to stay.
Rarely seen and rarer heard. Their lordships were in the limelight.
We are bleeding the best academics from this country at the present time who are leaving one by one or are thinking about leaving because they do not see themselves having a future in this country.
Those peers in.
You can't do negotiations with people's futures. They're too precious to be used as bargaining chips.
Defeating those out.
Why is everybody here today so excited about an amendment which looks after the foreigners and not the British?
voting 358 to 256 to protect the existing rights of an estimated 2.5 million people from other EU nations who live and work in the United Kingdom.
So the contents have it.
Are you ready for defeat today, Prime Minister?
Theresa May was. She remains opposed to handing over those guarantees to people like engineer Alexandrine Cantor.
The first days after Brexit was like a feeling of heartbreak. Now my life is here and I don't want to restart.
Until the rights of UK citizens abroad are protected in return.
This is the sort of issue where the House of Lords is right to say to the Commons, please think again about this.
This is the Lords doing their job, which is scrutiny.
Plenty of that in Brussels too.
Brexit is not the cause. Brexit is the last consequence.
It is not only a negative story of one country leaving us.
The impending divorce, said the President, was the perfect time for the remaining 27 nations to renew their vows. Their union, he said, would be reborn.
Brexit, however painful or regretful it may be, will not stop the EU as it moves forward into the future. We will keep going. We have to keep going.
While the House of Lords may have denied her a Brexit bill, Brussels certainly won't, set to invoice Downing Street an eye-watering $84 billion. In London, Brett Mason, SBS World News.
And Brexit will loom large over tonight's snap elections in Northern Ireland, which faces a future without EU funding. 56% of voters in Northern Ireland opted to remain in the EU. Many now fear a return to a hard border with the Republic of Ireland, potentially threatening an uneasy peace. It's the second election there in just 10 months after the power-sharing government of nationalists and unionists collapsed in May. A scathing United Nations report has labelled the atrocities in Aleppo war crimes, and it claims all sides were guilty.
The battle for control of Aleppo was one of the most horrific aspects of the Syrian conflict. Syrian government forces backed by Russia, rebel factions supported by the West, and the so-called Islamic State fighting for complete control. The result, widespread destruction, civilian death, and displacement. UN investigators say what happened in Aleppo from July to December last year were war crimes, and it says each side was culpable.
No one is safe from an attack in Syria.
A UN convoy hit last September, killing 14 aid workers said to be deliberately bombed by Syrian jets. Aerial and barrel bombs, as well as chemical weapons attacks, all dropped on defenseless neighborhoods.
For months, the Syrian and Russian Air Force relentlessly bombarded eastern Aleppo city as part of a strategy to force surrender.
The UN probe found opposition groups to have indiscriminately shelled Aleppo's government-controlled west. Rebels also accused of preventing civilians from fleeing, even using some as human shields. The battle for control of Aleppo may be over, but the Syrian conflict is not. The Pentagon says Syrian and Russian jets bombed US-backed forces yesterday in the north, albeit accidentally.
I believe they thought were held by ISIS, yet they were actually on the ground were some of our Syrian Arab coalition forces.
At the UN headquarters in Geneva, peace talks between key Syrian parties are finally edging forward. Opposition groups want a political transition plan that sees President Assad out of power. The government has long refused to even discuss that. But the opposition says Russia has persuaded the regime to at least hear them out.
نريدهم أن يكونوا حياديين وليس أعداء لسوريا. نريدهم أن يضغطوا ويكونوا ضامنين لعملية الانتقال السياسي.
But amidst the conflict now in its 6th year, there are clearly no guarantees. Omar Dabaj, SBS World News.
Tensions in Ukraine's east have entered a potentially explosive new phase, with Russian-backed separatist rebels seizing dozens of mines and factories linked to Kiev. It's in response to a month-long blockade by Ukrainian nationalists, stopping trade going in and out of Ukraine's rebel-held Donetsk and Luhansk regions.
Hand-to-hand combat at a rail blockade on the border of eastern Ukraine. Ukrainian nationalists behind the trading halt fighting back against those who want it over. The men armed with sticks, rocks, and in the bottom right-hand corner, a chainsaw. The scuffle ending in injuries and arrests, but no end to the stalemate. The Ukrainian nationalists say they want to stop a so-called trade in blood, whereby money that is paid to the rebels for supplies such as coal is indirectly funneled back into a war that has claimed more than 10,000 lives. But in the process, they are hurting their own people too. The electricity is cut off, says this woman, because there is no coal for the furnaces, a failed plea by the Ukrainian government to end the blockade, resulting in the pro-Russian rebels taking matters into their own hands, seizing dozens of Ukrainian businesses in their territories and increasingly consolidating the Russian ruble as the official currency, a move the Ukrainian president quickly linked back to Moscow.
Це є абсолютно чітке підтвердження факту окупації цієї території російськими.
The Russian foreign minister says the rebels' hand was forced by the hardship caused by the blockade.
Руководство провозглашенных Донецкой и Луганской республик едва ли имело какой-либо иной выход для того, чтобы обеспечить дальнейшее функционирование предприятий. Это связано и с сохранением рабочих мест.
On the border of eastern Ukraine, Kiev's aim of eventually reintegrating the rebel regions appears as elusive as ever. Helen Ispista, SBS World News.
The opposition has referred Human Services Minister Alan Tudge to the federal police for investigation after a welfare recipient's personal details were given to a journalist. Mr Tudge and his department claimed the release of the information was legal, but Labor believes it could breach privacy law.
The actions of Mr Tudge are reckless and immoral at best and illegal at worst.
Mr Tudge insists privacy is treated seriously and the information was released with the approval of the Chief Legal Counsel of the Department of Human Services. Coming up after the break, homes ripped to pieces as deadly tornadoes roll through towns.
Thieving, narcotics, murder. Boy's got talent. Who are you? I'm the night manager. The Night Manager starts Wednesday, 22nd of March on SBS and on demand.
7 English celebs go on a sugar-free journey.
It's torture.
Is life really sweeter without sugar? Sugar-Free Farm, next Thursday 8:30 on SBS and on demand.
This is the time Betty's booty got her into a spot of bother. Fortunately, she's got confidence by her side. Download the NRMA Insurance app or go online to get confidence by your side.
Not all reward points go the distance. The same number that will get you all the way to LA with American Express membership rewards may only get you partway with other cards. Just part of the altogether more rewarding service we deliver daily.
teachers say that I'd end up in jail.
The teachers changing lives.
Once I got a taste of success, I just wanted more and more and more.
It's not a game, it's that passion to make a change in somebody's life.
Then on Dateline, she survived sex slavery.
What has happened to me, I can't go and change.
Now, she's saving lives in one of the most dangerous places to give birth.
A 12-year-old girl pregnant.
Insight, followed by Dateline, Tuesday from 8:30 on SBS.
A man has been arrested over a suspicious fire that killed 3 people at a Melbourne factory. Bodies, believed to be of 2 men and a woman, were found inside the Footscray building. It had been a well-known squat for many homeless people in Melbourne's west. This afternoon, a 52-year-old man was arrested in central Melbourne. The Prime Minister has moved to stem the political pain from cuts to Sunday penalty rates. Malcolm Turnbull says it's not up to him to overturn the decision, but wants changes to be rolled out gradually to soften the blow.
The unions, the Greens and Labor continue to hammer home the same message on Sunday penalty rates. They want Malcolm Turnbull to intervene and they'll fight him on it until the next election.
Terry works in a newsagent.
Margarita is a single mother.
Linda says she works on Sundays as a hotel chef.
The Prime Minister has the power to stop these pay cuts, and he won't.
He knows, and Australians know, this is a decision of an independent expert tribunal.
This is like an umpire making a decision or a referee making a decision in a sporting game, and then the coach demanding that somebody else goes and overrules that decision.
But the opposition's attack is unrelenting.
People expect governments to intervene in the community when there are decisions made which are harming a lot of people.
What he's seeking to do, yet again, is turn Australians against each other. Turn workers against business.
The Fair Work Commission suggested phasing in the changes over 2 years, but small business wants it sooner. Former Employment Minister and Tony Abbott loyalist Erica Betts says the new rates should only apply to new workers.
To be fair to the unemployed and underemployed so they can get into employment, but also fair to those that currently benefit from those rates.
That would be a stupid idea. You'd have 2 people working side by side, making the same hamburgers for the same customers, getting paid differently.
The problem for the Prime Minister is that even though businesses have been crying out for this change, he's the one who'll have to wear it politically. It's already hijacked the political agenda for an entire week. But the coalition is trying to get on the front foot with workers by scrapping a deal that allowed fast food chains to fast-track their employment of foreign workers.
Particularly in areas where we've got high youth unemployment, those kids should be getting the jobs ahead of foreign workers.
It's really putting a band-aid over a much bigger challenge.
Like better regulation to make sure businesses only employ foreign workers as a last resort. Maria Jovanovic, SBS World News.
The Electoral Commission has confirmed it will conduct a special vote count next Tuesday to fill a vacant Senate spot. The High Court disqualified Rod Cullerton from his West Australian seat in February, finding his election invalid. He's likely to be replaced by his brother-in-law, Peter Giorgio, who was number 2 on One Nation's ticket. Malaysia is set to release a North Korean man held over the death of Kim Jong-nam. Authorities say there isn't enough evidence to charge Ri Jong-chol, so he'll be deported tomorrow. Indonesia is calling for a fair trial for one of the women accused of Kim's murder, who faces the death penalty if convicted. And at least 3 people have been killed as tornadoes rip through the US Midwest. Homes have been destroyed and thousands are without power. Rescue workers are digging through the debris and trying to clear highways as recovery efforts continue. When the tide goes out in Broome, the full horror of war is revealed in the shallows. There lies the wreckage of flying boats attacked by Japanese fighters 75 years ago tomorrow. A 10-year-old girl survived the first assault on West Australian soil by Japanese forces. Ellie Coons was a Dutch refugee seeking safety here when the Japanese opened fire.
A reminder of the brutality of war still lies off the coast of Broome, exposed when the tide goes out. This is one of 16 flying boats that was in Roebuck Bay on the morning of March 3rd, 1942. Dutch military personnel, their wives and children were easy targets for Japanese Zero fighter pilots. Scores would die, shot, drowned or succumbing to the fires from the burning planes. 85-year-old Ellie Koen survived that day nearly 75 years ago. Along with her Dutch naval officer father, mother and brother, she'd fled from Java at midnight as the Japanese advanced south.
It's very difficult to say my emotions on it because there were no emotions. I just did as I was told.
Although as the Japanese rained fire upon the flotilla of Dornier and Catalina flying boats, a stubborn 10-year-old Ellie Koens would not get in the water.
I said, no. I said, I got to take my shoes off, Mum. And she said, doesn't matter, get in the water. I said, no, my shoes have got to come off. And of course my mother was as anxious as could be.
Thankfully, the Koens family could all swim, but in 1942 it was not common. Miss Koens watched as a mother and her child clung to a burning plane, unable to swim.
And my mother tried to swim back to this plane, and so did her husband actually, but the current is so strong in Broome that they could not reach her.
After hours in the water, duck diving, burning oil floating on the surface, the Koens were finally rescued by rowboat. They were taken south to Port Hedland to recuperate before their father rejoined the war effort. The Koens family has donated Ellie's father's Dutch Navy uniform to the Broome Museum. It will be officially unveiled tomorrow in Broome as part of commemorations to mark 75 years since war first came to Western Australia. Ryan Emery, SBS World News.
Australian scientists are disputing findings published in a world-renowned journal that newly found fossils could be the world's oldest. The study shows tiny filaments found in rocks recovered from Canada date back to shortly after the formation of the Earth.
The Earth is believed to have formed about 4.5 billion years ago. What began as a molten mass of rock started to cool and created oceans where some of the first signs of life are said to have emerged. A new study claims to have found microfossils similar to those found living next to cracks on the sea floor that spray out warm water and minerals. Recovered from a belt of rock in northern Quebec, the microfossils are about half the width of a human hair and are said to be up to 4.3 billion years old. If confirmed, the date at which life on Earth is believed to have begun would be pushed back hundreds of millions of years.
We've got it. We've got the oldest fossils. This is exciting. The oldest fossils on the planet. It relates us to our origin. I mean, this is one of the reasons for intelligent life to evolve.
But the report is proving contentious.
Just imagine how difficult it is. What we're talking about is fossil microbes, bacteria and the like. So no shells, no bones, no hard parts like that can be preserved. And you have to have perfect conditions to preserve such things.
Professor Walter argues the area where the microbes were found is made up of very altered rocks. He believes the microfossils resemble mineral crystals, but one of the report's Perth-based researchers is confident the findings are accurate.
It's too much of a coincidence that you have these little filaments which resemble almost a carbon copy of the bacteria formed on the seafloor during hot spring activity. So all these things put together do suggest that we are looking at early life.
Findings Professor Perino and his colleagues are hoping to illustrate further in more upcoming studies. Manny Tsigas, SBS World News.
Coming up next, the weather and Oprah for president. Has Donald Trump met his match?
The science is in, and guess what?
Equality! It's in our chemistry!
SBS brings you all the action and reactions from Australia's own celebration of equality.
From the comfort of your own laboratory, catch your hosts, Em Russiano, Faustina Rigoli, Patrick Abud, and me, Joel Creasy, for all of the magic, all of the fun, and all of the fabulousness from the Sydney Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras. Sunday at 8:30 on SBS and on demand.
Introducing the all-new Toyota CHR. Thrill of the next. Oh, what a feeling. Toyota.
Shoal Gel Active insoles change how it feels to walk. It feels like walking on a gel cloud.
From Shoal, Gel Active everyday insoles with 3 components for extra comfort.
Make the last step of the day feel as good as the first.
Gel Active insoles from Shoal.
Why did I choose eHarmony?
I was after a long-lasting relationship.
I liked the idea of their matching system.
eHarmony just seemed to make it easy.
I definitely got my special someone.
eHarmony, it worked for us.
Visit eHarmony and join free today.
Dad, I'm gay. It's an illness. It can be treated.
This city will not be taken over by incorrigibles and deviants. Help me!
If we ever want to be free, we have to stop hiding.
No more!
We are not a menace. We will not be silent any longer.
We fight until they realize this is our home and we're fighting with our lives.
It matters not who they love.
Whoever you are not alone.
When We Rise, now streaming on SBS On Demand.
To the Australian share market now, which rose on renewed optimism following US President Donald Trump's speech yesterday. By the close, the 200 added 1.2%. Resource stocks led the charge. The banks did well too. European shares fell in early trade. In the US, the Dow breached 21,000 points for the first time. And the Australian dollar is buying 76.5 US cents. Former talk show host Oprah Winfrey has briefly teased her fans about a possible run for the White House. The television executive said Donald Trump's election victory made her rethink what's needed to be US president.
So I never considered the question even a possibility. I just thought, oh.
Right, because it's clear that you don't need government experience to be elected president of the United States, right?
I thought, oh, gee, I don't have the experience. I don't know enough. I don't know. And now I'm thinking, oh.
She's no stranger to the campaign trail, backing Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton's bids. But Winfrey eventually added she won't be running herself. And in sport, the Brisbane Broncos have claimed the spoils in the first match of the NRL season. Jordan Kahu scored 12 of the Broncos' points in the win over the reigning premiers. The Sharks had trailed 20 points to 6 early in the second half, but a late surge wasn't enough for Cronulla. To the weather now, and partly cloudy skies in Perth, thunderstorms in Darwin, Canberra and Sydney, sunny in Adelaide and showers in Melbourne. Cloudy skies in Hobart and light rain in Brisbane. Looking further afield, rain in Noumea and sunny in Auckland, partly cloudy in Wellington and thunderstorms in Nadi. In Southeast Asia, sunny in Bangkok, thunderstorms in Kuala Lumpur and Singapore. Further north, partly cloudy skies in Hong Kong and Hanoi, sunny in Beijing and also in Tokyo. Heading west, light rain in Jerusalem and Baghdad, sunny in Dubai and Mumbai. To Europe, rain in Madrid and London, cloudy skies in Paris, sunny in Budapest, also in Athens. To Africa now, sunny in Dakar and Algiers, thunderstorms in Lagos and rain in Johannesburg. In South America, partly cloudy skies in Panama City, rain in Bogota and Caracas. And for North America, sunny in Los Angeles, snow in Toronto and New York, light rain in Havana. That's the world this Thursday. All tonight's stories are online. And for news around the clock, please go to our website. You can also tune in to English language news tomorrow morning between 5 and 7:30 here on SBS. I'm Darren Mara. Good night.